Welcome to The Explainer. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to investigate a passage that gets heavily debated, the sheep and goat judgment in Matthew 25. Now, if you follow eschatology, you know interpretations are kind of all over the map. But today we're zeroing in strictly on the specific framework laid out in our source material. We're not here to take sides, just to unpack exactly how this source pieces it all together. And honestly, the way they organize this timeline is absolutely fascinating.
It really all kicks off with this central mystery: who exactly populates the millennial kingdom? You know the drill. There's this prophesied 1,000-year reign of peace. But think about it. If the earth just went through devastating apocalyptic events right before that, who's actually left around to live in it? Well, according to the source material, Matthew 25 isn't just some moral parable. It literally holds the exact answer to that question. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the Matthew 25 misconception. 2. Mapping the end times timeline. 3. Who is being judged. 4. The sheep and the goats. 5. Faith revealed through actions. And finally 6. The pre-tribulation picture. Let's get right into it.
Starting with section 1, the Matthew 25 misconception, where we separate assumption from the actual text.
So, the source points out that readers often bring 3 false assumptions into this passage. First up, some folks use it to argue there's no rapture of the church at all. Second, people just assume this is a massive general judgment, where every single human from all of history gets judged at the exact same time in the exact same way. And third, some argue this actually proves the church is going to endure the tribulation. But the source argues that if you really look closely at the text, it supports the exact opposite of these 3 points.
Instead, the source makes a very definitive claim here. They state this passage is strictly about tribulation survivors. It's not about the church, and it's not about the whole of humanity across all time. It's a highly specific event designed to answer just one question: who gets to walk out of the tribulation and step directly into the millennial kingdom? Moving on to section 2, mapping the end times timeline and placing the judgment. To figure out what this is, we first have to look at what it's not. The source framework is very careful to separate Matthew 25 from 2 other massive biblical events. First, it is not the rapture of the church, which, in this specific timeline, happens before the tribulation even starts. And it's definitely not the Great White Throne Judgment, which is that final judgment of resurrected unbelievers at the very end of time. No, Matthew 25 is its own unique, standalone event. Let's see how this all fits together chronologically. According to this framework, the sequence is incredibly structured. Check this out. Day 1, Jesus returns visibly to earth. Immediately following that, on day 2, the tribulation officially ends. Right then, in that little transitional pocket of time, day 3 hits, and the sheep and goat judgment occurs. Once that's complete, boom, the 1,000-year millennial reign begins. It's a perfectly logical progression.
Now, I really want to stress the importance of this next distinction. The source emphasizes that the folks standing before Jesus in Matthew 25 are entirely living people. Nobody has been resurrected from the dead for this specific event. We are talking about mortal humans, still in their natural flesh and blood bodies, who have somehow just managed to survive the most harrowing period in human history.
That brings us to section 3. Who is being judged? The nations before him. The text breaks this down super clearly. This crowd, it consists of Gentile survivors of the tribulation. These are the people who literally lived through the extreme chaos, the global devastation, the intense persecution, and were still breathing when Jesus visibly returned. And again, to be absolutely clear on the source's position, this is not the church. In this theological framework, the church was already raptured beforehand and has already been glorified. They're returning with Christ, not standing on trial before him.
So how exactly are these survivors judged? Well, Jesus says whatever they did to the least of these, my brethren, they did to him. The source provides a really vital definition here. The brethren doesn't just mean random disadvantaged people in a broad modern sense. Within the intense context of the tribulation, the brethren refers to Jesus' specific people. We're talking primarily about believing Jews and anyone openly aligned with Christ during a time of extreme global persecution by the Antichrist. How the survivors treated these specific individuals is the one and only criteria for this judgment.
All right, section 4, the sheep and the goats, the great separation.
Let's look at how the source compares these 2 groups. On one side, you've got the sheep. These are the tribulation believers. Their defining action was risking their own lives, sheltering, feeding, and helping those persecuted brethren in direct defiance of the Antichrist. Their destiny? They get to enter the millennial kingdom completely alive. On the other side, you have the goats.
These are the Christ rejectors, the ones aligned with the Antichrist. Their action was refusing to help Jesus' people. They lacked compassion when it mattered most, and their destiny is to be removed from the earth and judged.
Just imagine hearing these words after surviving the literal apocalypse. Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you. The source points out that these incredible words are spoken directly to the sheep. And remember, they're hearing this while they are still in their natural, mortal bodies.
And this completely solves our initial mystery from the start of the explainer. Because they enter the kingdom alive in natural bodies, the sheep literally become the first generation of the millennium. They settle down, they marry, they have kids. They are the ones who physically populate the earth under Christ's reign for the next 1,000 years. It perfectly answers the logistical question of where that millennial population actually comes from.
Conversely, the goats face a really sobering destiny. The framework argues that the millennium is characterized by unprecedented global peace. So naturally, you can't have a kingdom of peace if it's populated by people in open rebellion against the king. The goats are removed specifically to clear the earth of that rebellion before the 1,000-year clock even starts ticking.
Which takes us to Section 5, Faith Revealed Through Actions, and the role of works.
Now, you might be wondering about the whole works versus faith thing. The crucial point here is understanding the difference between earning salvation through works and revealing faith through works. The source takes a very firm stance on this. Scripture is clear that works never ever save a person. But during the extreme pressure of the tribulation, there's going to be absolutely no neutral ground. Aiding a persecuted believer won't just be a nice act of charity. It'll be an act of high treason against the global government, punishable by death. So doing that visibly and undeniably reveals that a person has true, saving faith and allegiance to Jesus. Finally, Section 6, the pre-tribulation picture. Let's complete the theology.
When you zoom out, look at how beautifully logical these steps are. Step 1, the church is removed from danger via the rapture. Step 2, the horrific tribulation occurs, which serves to purge rebellion and awaken Israel. Step 3, Jesus visibly returns and immediately separates the remaining survivors, the sheep and the goats. And Step 4, the believing sheep, still in their natural bodies, enter the new kingdom to populate it. According to the text, God isn't just making things up as he goes along, he is executing a highly orderly, step-by-step master plan.
To summarize the big theological takeaways here, the source views this interpretation of Matthew 25 as an amazing reflection of God's character. It shows his perfect justice in dealing definitively with rebellion by removing the goats. It highlights his incredible mercy in rescuing and rewarding his people. And it showcases his precise logical order in managing human history, proving that the millennial kingdom is intentionally, not accidentally, populated.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground today, untangling the timeline, the subjects, and the deep theological implications of the sheep and goat judgment, according to this fascinating framework. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. If this theological timeline is indeed so meticulously precise, what does that incredible orderliness reveal about how we should be viewing the future right now? Does it bring anxiety, or does it bring a profound sense of peace knowing the architect has a blueprint? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.